Hill Ascension pre-show. This is Eduardo. I'm joined here by Layla, and Layla's going to walk us through kind of what we're going to see tonight, how our show runs.
That's right. Welcome everybody to the run of show. If you've been here before, you know this. If you haven't, here's the news. The pre-show always starts at 5:40 p.m. Pacific. The actual show will start at 6 p.m. Pacific. And then whenever the indoor stream wraps up, you can come right on back here to join us for the post-show.
Yeah, thank you so much here. By the way, for our audience at home, you'll if your eyes are sharp, you'll notice that weekly live schedule is a little different than usual. We're actually got a small announcement about that. We're going to cover that basically as soon as the show wraps up, as soon as you had your enjoyment. In 2 or 3 minutes into the post show, we're actually going to discuss some changes to our content schedule. So don't worry, we'll cover those. In the meantime, Silent Hill Ascension, socially interactive streaming series where all of you at home collectively shape and experience the ever-evolving story. You're going to collaborate and compete with others to make the choices you want to see, because when that decision ends, the choice locks in as canon. And as you know, that's why you're here, because at the end, we're going to have a horror TV show made by all of you at home. In the meantime, we're going to have our production team throw on the screen a scene where essentially Toby and Joy having a little bit of a dispute outside the Foundation. That was kind of our iconic scene of last week. Pretty big moment. Essentially, last week was really a story about tensions rising. Nothing too major happened, with one small exception, which we'll get to later. But essentially, tensions are rising here, Layla.
Yeah, for sure. Again, we've discussed the fact that Joy's timing is right? First popping up in the forest, and now poor Toby is just trying to get out of Hope's Junction, and he simply cannot. And then to make it worse, here comes Joy once again with her penchant for wanting him to do violence. It's it's a lot to handle for poor Toby.
No, for sure. And I mean, it's interesting that, the place is called Hope's Junction, but Toby's hope is pretty low right now, if you wanted to check that. However, on the path to redemption by the decisions of the audience, but the hope is pretty low right now, so that might affect poor Toby's life. By the way, as our scene plays out, I love this ending here with Krista and Toby. I think that's great, where Krista essentially inviting Toby into the Foundation. But Layla, we also have Norway a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, the big question coming out of Norway from last week is, how do you lose a body? Right, it doesn't just get up and walk away, hopefully. So that's a pretty big question there. And then not to mention, the things on Carl's farm have not really been calming down at all. In fact, I would say they are maybe escalating in a way that is not great for our friend Carl. And yeah, Eduardo, I don't know what I would be doing in his place. I think I would be going beyond choosing between traps and runes and whatnot. I think I would be perhaps vacating the premises.
That's fair. And it's a shame because things were starting to heat up with Carl and Mete, but that was at the start of the week before things got a little bit more harrowing. Now, we're actually going to throw to a scene that our lovely production team is going to put on screen. We'll let you enjoy that calmly. This is where Rachel is going to report her failure to recruit Toby to Xavier. This was a key scene. So obviously, Krista has succeeded where Rachel has failed. We'll let you enjoy that. See you in a bit.
You should have told me your plans, Xavier.
I know, Barbara, but...
I'm sorry,
No, I was expecting you.
You were?
I told you recruiting Toby was absolutely crucial. No room for error, Rachel. She knows.
Why did you choose me for this? When you knew Toby wasn't going to listen to me. You sent me into a fight you knew I would lose. This isn't my fault. It's yours.
Rachel, I would never ask you to do anything I didn't believe you were fully capable of handling. You cannot keep challenging me like this.
I can try again.
Don't bother. I already brought him in.
What?
He came to Krista. Toby will be initiated within the week.
Apologizing to him was never going to be enough.
Krista's right. You could learn from her, Rachel. Now, about Toby's induction ceremony.
If I may, I did have something in mind, Xavier. I'd like your daughter to be needle-bearer for the ceremony.
Are you sure that's the best idea?
Why wouldn't it be?
Well, Eric and I aren't exactly on the greatest terms with Toby right now, and Eric thinks it's too early to involve Faith in the Foundation.
Do I really need to say anything here?
I'll talk to Eric.
Good.
And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that if that's your first time seeing it, or that you enjoyed rewatching our content. As always, content always available to catch up or in the episodes. So there, Layla, we're essentially kind of setting the scene, right? Like, I mean, Toby joining the Foundation is a pretty big deal here.
Yeah, it's definitely a break from his usual, right? And it wasn't easy. There were many attempts to try and kind of rope him in, whether implicit or explicit. And finally, we're seeing him, I think, capitulate is the only way I can put it. Like, he's not doing this for funsies. This isn't like a thing that he's doing willingly. This is, hey, my sister's image keeps following me around and wanting to do violence, and also my best friend is pulled into the throes of this. So, like, what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Essentially, Toby between a rock and a hard place. And actually, that's the decision that's closing today. It's about Toby. There's actually a second one that's a little smaller, but here's the thing, right? Our production team's going to throw that up on screen. And Layla, if you could do us the honor of reading what's closing in about 30 minutes.
Yes. So in approximately 14 minutes.
Oh, my bad. It's actually soon. You got to get in there.
Gotta get in there. It's who will Toby choose as his Foundation mentor? He's got 3 choices. He's got Rachel. He's got Krista. He's got refuse a mentor, which is the real represent yourself in court option. Now, you know, one that apparently the audience is not really vibing with, because it's between Krista and Rachel. We got a 49 to 42, which that means there's still time. 14 minutes.
I mean, I definitely saw a rally earlier, you know, where people can essentially gather at the same time and get a boost to their influence points. But I love that the decisions between Rachel and Krista, essentially 2 characters that, like, you know, dividing our audience literally here.
Dividing our audience, much like the Foundation is dividing Rachel and Eric's marriage. They are two sides diametrically opposed. I am quite curious that it seems like we're choosing the redemption path for Toby here with Rachel, and I'm also curious as to what about choosing Rachel is going to be redeeming, right?
That's true, because we have to question a lot about what's going on with Rachel. But another of the other decision that's closing today, a little smaller, is whether Faith should be involved essentially in said ritual. And right now, it seems that, like, the audience is deciding that no, the daughter should not, and siding with her husband's case essentially here. But we should look really at our story so far in Pennsylvania. Our production team's going to throw that up on screen for all of you at home. And Layla, if you could walk us through essentially kind of what happened in Pennsylvania in this last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love nothing more. So first, with help from his dealer, Rachel finds Toby and attempts to recruit him into the Foundation, an attempt we now know is fairly successful. She also must report her failure to recruit Toby to Xavier, only to learn how Krista has succeeded. And then Rachel tries to convince Eric to let Faith hold an important role as the needlebearer in Toby's induction ceremony. And so lots of Foundation shenanigans going on, lots of Rachel shenanigans going on, Eduardo. And it seems like not only is the decision to not let Faith be part of the induction ritual leaning towards preventing her from doing so, it's preventing her from doing so by a pretty wide margin. We are 33 to 67.
Yeah, I think at the end, you know, one of the important things here is don't mess with the kids, right? Like, you know, the adults can do whatever nonsense they want. They can get involved into any kind of self-improvement schemes they'd love to do in their lives. Don't mess with the children. Although, honestly, there was, I remember watching that scene that essentially, you know, played recently where, if you haven't watched it, audience, this one's great, where, well, not the part where Faith essentially slaps her mother, but the part where she goes into the extremely creepy basement with the flickering light and scares the living daylights out of her.
Yeah. Basements are inherently creepy. We didn't need all that on top of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, we're in a horror show, so children in a creepy basement's perfect. Great setup, perfect for. It's a great way to have someone walk out of the room or scream.
Yeah, that's the kind of a classic moment, classic horror moment you can find here. But yeah, it's I do agree. It does seem like you know, we're trying not to mess with the kids too much. Well, I'm not sure. I can't remember. So correct me if I'm wrong. If there's been a moment for Orson to get involved into something less than preferable, let's say, for a young child's development. It seems like on the Norway side, Orson's been more or less the cause of some trouble.
Yeah, a lot of absence, essentially vanishing from sight, being hard to find, and biting a lot. That's the other thing. Is, you know, but it makes sense, right? Like, whatever happens with the parents, they are still worried for their children, right? That's something that, you know, it's like the children are kind of like in the back of their mind, almost in the background, but little by little, we're seeing them a little more, and I'm kind of excited about that. I mean. By the way, how are we advancing on the current decision? We're still about the same, I would guess?
Yeah, still 49-42, so I'm not seeing quite a lot of movement yet. There are approximately 10 minutes remaining, so we'll see. There's still time.
Yes, the time is closing, so if you wanted to kind of shift things, this is a good time to do so. I'll be honest, a little difficult on the decision around Faith, but the one between Krista and Rachel could still swing for sure here. You know, basically choose your favorites, so to speak. And, you know, you'll see that as the scene plays live. So those 10 minutes mean that in 10 minutes, that scene will play. And in 10 minutes, you'll see the result of that. That's Pennsylvania. Now our production team's going to throw Norway up on the screen. Layla, if you could walk us through what's been going on in the other side.
Absolutely. So first things first, Carl chooses how he's going to protect his farm from the evil he believes is stalking him. Quite a decision. Like I said, the mischief on Carl's farm does not seem to let up. Then Carl and Eva confront the person or thing that he believes has been terrorizing his farm, and Carl finds Ingrid's ring and must decide who to give it to. So we got drama parentheses haunted farm, haunted, so to speak, terrorized farm, and then drama parentheses the ring. Poor Carl cannot catch a break.
No, absolutely not. Tried to catch a break, right? A lot of the audience decided that Mete should be at the farmhouse of Carl, as you and Noah referred to last week in Scandalo, which, you know, you were like, oh, things are heating up, but then it turns out you got to deal with what's on the farm, what's in front of you, and that's where things got, let's be honest, things with Eva got really weird.
Yeah. That little speech sure is something. I actually remember reading that in the script back when we got the scripts and we were reviewing that scene, and unpleasant to read, even less pleasant to see. Did not like it. Not a welcoming sight. Well, I liked it in the sense that it was done well, but the effect of it being done well is me not liking it.
I love how it creeps you out the more once it's fully fledged because again, for the audience at home, we're developers essentially on Silent Hill Ascension, so we've been here seeing the thing kind of grow over time. So for Layla, it's definitely something to go like, oh, here's some text to, okay, now we see the fully fledged effect of that scene. Definitely something. And the ring aspect was also kind of weird, right? Because I don't know if it's Astrid being difficult here, really. I mean, she has to deal with a lot of things, but this is one of those aspects where she's pushing back pretty strongly. And then I love that the detective kind of comes in and goes like, oh, her body's desecrated, by the way.
Yeah, a real afterthought, right? Like, bad news. You know, all things considered, which you'd think that death would be kind of the worst shape you could end up in. And then the theme in Norway seems to be, but wait, it gets worse.
I like that for the Johanssons, the family motto of the Johanssons. But wait, it gets worse. Perfectly encapsulates essentially what's been going on with them, what seems to have been going on with them for a while. And basically, we're going to have to leave Carl kind of deal with it. Now, one of the things is it's almost time for our show. We're like 4 minutes away. So I'm going to ask our production team to actually put up the Endurer scene that all of you are going to face. So Layla, if you can introduce that as it plays in the background for us.
Absolutely. So one of our main story characters will be in a very dark room with our good monster friend, the Bruiser. There's a very clear exit sign that our character wants to get to, but the Bruiser is smashing furniture in the way. Not very polite of him, if you ask me, and if you've been here, we're going to talk about how you can help, which is to say, the one chance that you have is that the Bruiser is blind and has to listen to figure out where our character is. You as the audience can assist the character escape the room unscathed by timing your inputs to the commands that appear on the screen. And now, Eduardo, I believe you have some elaboration to that effect.
Of course, so that's my pleasure. So again, one of the things is if a character feels too much of these Endure scenes, they may not survive in the future, so that would lead to their permanent death in the story. Part of that is through the hope, essentially. So if their hope is negative, that's because they failed a lot of these Endure scenes. Now, from your endurance scenes are one of the best places to earn large amounts of influence points. So that's great for you. You get influence points to affect the story. Now, remember that whether you succeed or not in this doesn't matter as much on you. It's not a reflection of you. It just transforms the collective story, just so you get a little bit of tension as to what happens. And by the way, because of the commands, we know that like for some of you, these are more or less difficult. We also have mindfulness puzzles. Those can raise a character's hope, and those can be enjoyed at any time, whether we're live or not. So again, endurance scenes, you'll enjoy those live, but you can always do our mindfulness puzzles.
Yeah, absolutely. And minute by minute, we creep closer not only to those mindfulness puzzles, but the show. Eduardo, we are just 2 minutes away now. Would you mind giving us a recap?
Absolutely, my pleasure. So the big thing from last week, a lot of tension rising. One of the big tension rises was essentially Carl and Eva at the farm. If you haven't had a chance to watch that scene, I'd highly recommend you do. But otherwise, it's been a lot of setup, right? Big thing in Pennsylvania. Toby's joining the Foundation, we believe, based on what's been going on. So you need to essentially watch out for what's going to happen from that. In Norway, tensions rising on between the farm, Astrid, Ingrid relationship, and Ors has been in the background. So again, in Norway, things building up. In Pennsylvania, things are building up, but clearly they're building up to something. By the way, after our show will have a special announcement about our content schedule, so please stick around for a few minutes after you've enjoyed the show, after the Endurance scenes, so that we can walk you through all of that. Myself and Layla will be back. We'll walk you through that. We'll walk you back through the story. We hope you enjoyed our company. If no matter all about that, the show's about to start. Grab a glass of your favorite drink and enjoy it. For Eduardo and Layla, saying bye for now.